Yeah, my guess is about 1% for your typical sales page. And again, it depends. If you're sending warm traffic or affiliate JV traffic, then it's going to be higher. Now, with a launch, you're going to typically have double-digit types of conversions. Sometimes 20%, 25%, maybe 30%. Now, there are some downsides to launches, and we'll talk about in a little bit, but there are certain things about a launch that make them high converting. Let's talk about real quick what those are, um, although they're very manual labor intensive. So here's how money flows during a launch. So ideally you're building up anticipation and then the doors open. And so over here on the left hand side, we've got money. So as soon as doors open, hey, come and get it. The doors are open, cart is open, boom, money starts coming in. Sales, the cash register starts ringing. But then after a day or two, things kind of die off a little bit. They don't go to zero, but certainly the activity dies down. But then there's a surge of sales in another section of the launch. And that's right before a certain type of event. And that is when the person running the launch says, hey, by the way, all good things come to an end, and so is this promotion. So if you want the special discount, if you want to get in on this deal and the bonuses, you have to order before tomorrow night. And then the next day they say before tonight. So boom, there's a huge surge in sales right at the end, which oftentimes is much higher than the cart open. It's right at the end before the deadline. So that's how money flows in a launch. I call this the perfect persuasion window because I call it this because this is the time during a launch where the revenue per click, the revenue per email open, the revenue per website visitor, almost any metric that you would consider is at its highest. You're making the max amount of money in the minimum amount of time, the max amount of money per click, per website visit, etc. Now here's a screenshot that I have not touched, so the text was put there by the person who created this graphic, and I took this image from a blog post on videofruit.com. It's a great website by a guy named Brian Harris. And so I just want to show you, it's not just me saying this. This is a post-mortem of one of his launches from a few years ago, where he's sharing that the first day was big and then it died off, and then the last day was even bigger. And also, as I mentioned, I worked with Perry Marshall. I just want to show you, I've covered all of the personal details, but this is a screenshot of Perry Marshall's Confusionsoft account, a sales report for a promotion that we ran in December. In the first several days, we thought that we had a real turkey. We thought that this was a loser because only about $10,000 had come in. Then on the last day, another $40,000 came in for this short 1 week promotion that we rolled out. So 80% of the sales arrived on the last day. So I just want to, I'm showing this to you because you need to know that there is this huge burst of sales at the end right before a deadline. And it happens not just in my business, not just in Brian Harris's business, not just in Perry's business. It happens in all niches everywhere. If you have a deadline right before the deadline, there's a huge surge in sales. One of my clients said every time a reminder went out with Deadline Funnel Timer, it was like printing money. And this was a year-end promotion. So again, that's a really powerful feature of a launch. However, there is a dark side to launches. And the dark side of launches, although there's lots of reasons to do a launch, the dark side of a launch or a major type of one-time promotion is that if you build your entire business around doing launches, it can be very tiring. Whether even if you have a team, your team's going to be burnt out at the end of it, but then you also have a real cliff after the launch. So yeah, it's nice when the revenue comes in, but after the launch, not so much. You hear crickets, and a lot of people talk about this. They're burnt out, and then they gotta psych themselves up to start prepare themselves for the next launch, because if you're going to do it right, it takes many months to pull off an effective launch. So this revenue roller coaster is something that we want to avoid, or at least you don't want to be dependent on doing launches. So going back to this grid, I want to talk about a way to take the best components of a launch, the best components of a fully automated sales page, and find that happy medium. And that's what we're going to be talking about right now. So how are we going to do that? With a deadline. So deadlines are used by Groupon, they're used by QVC, they're used by eBay. Amazon had their biggest sales day in their entire history recently for something, an event they called Prime Day. It was an entire day dedicated to just flash sales, and it may be a little bit hard to see, but on this page we have ends in X amount of time. So in each example, we have the amount of time that this sale is going to go on for and the amount that is remaining. And so they ran a whole bunch of flash sales. It was their most successful promotion ever, their biggest sales day ever. Even CNN, because even CNN uses deadlines to get people to tune in to their events, because the more people that they can get to tune in, the more they can charge for their advertising. Deadlines work in the offline world as well, and sometimes with tragic results. But the simple fact of the matter is that with deadlines trigger something that is hardwired into our brains. So exactly how is it that deadlines increase sales so consistently? Well, without a deadline, what's going to happen is your prospects that are interested, these folks that we want to go after to increase our conversion, to move them from interested to buyer, without a deadline, yeah, they're interested, but it's just natural. It's kind of human nature to hit the snooze button. They're going to delay, they're going to delay, they're going to delay. Not because they necessarily want to delay, but it's just easier. It's so much easier to do nothing. Plus, there's so many different things that are grabbing our attention. The phone can ring, text message comes in, Facebook Messenger, got to answer that. All sorts of different ways where someone's attention can be pulled away from your website, your order page, and they may leave it open in the tab, but are they actually going to come back and pull the trigger? And so whether they do it intentionally or not, it's human nature just to procrastinate. And here's another screenshot from Brian Harris's website and he wrote this: deadline equals people make decisions. That's from him. This is again a post-mortem of what worked in a launch that he did. Deadlines force people to make decisions. So when you force them to make a decision during that critical first period where their interest is the highest, that's what's going to get them to cross over from the interested area to the interested but haven't bought yet over to, yeah, I'm in, because you're forcing the decision. Now, I also want to share with you something really interesting and cool, which is that there is another reason. There's actually several, but there's another main reason why deadlines are so effective. Here's a really weird experiment, and this is just one of many, but this is one of my favorite ones to share. So imagine this. So here's this. Look at that red coffee mug. So students, this experiment was done, I believe, at Duke University. And so students were given, in every other seat, were given university mugs. So just picture this. Every other student, here you go, here's a mug free of charge. It's yours to keep. So then they were asked, the students who were given the mugs, the half the room that received the mugs, were asked, how much would you be willing to sell it for if someone wanted to buy that mug from you? Everyone who didn't get the mug was asked, how much would you pay for this mug to buy it? So what do you think happened? A, the students with the mugs priced them higher. B, the students with no mugs priced them higher. Or C, it was pretty much the same. So go ahead and type into the question area. And let's see here. Okay, got B, B, B. Okay, so most of you think the students with no mugs price them higher. I see some A's, but mostly B's. Interesting. Well, here's what actually happened. Students with the mugs were willing to said, look, if someone's going to buy this mug, I'll part with it for $4.50, but no less. That was the average. Students who didn't have one were willing to pay $2.25. So what's going on here? It's the same mug. Why are these two different people? Basically, like one group is pricing it at twice as much. It's the same mug. Well, it has to do with something called the endowment effect, which basically means that people, once they own something, once they feel some sort of ownership over something, they put a lot of value. To take it away from them causes them significantly more pain than someone who is seeking it. So people are loss averse. In other words, they will do more to avoid loss than they will to achieve gain. And there are all sorts of weird experiments outside of marketing. Some in the fitness space, some even to do with teacher pay, that show time and time again that we will go to great lengths to avoid losing money, losing things that we feel that we own, or even losing, say, some sort of bonus or discount. So losing something like that, having it taken away from us is extremely painful. We'll go to great lengths to prevent that from happening. So here's how this works in a marketing funnel. So we're going from the concept, and we're moving as quickly as we can down to how you're going to actually use this in your marketing funnel. So let me share a case study with you of Nick Stevenson. So Nick is a guy that got a 38% increase. So his website is your first 10,000 readers. He serves authors who want to get a readership. And a lot of authors have this sort of field of dreams idea where, well, I'll write the book, I'll load it up on Amazon, world's biggest bookstore, done, and people are going to find it. What they don't realize is that Amazon isn't really going to market it for them. It's just it's a huge catalog. There's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of other people competing for that same buyer. And so you have to go above and beyond to get your readership. That's what Nick teaches people how to do. He teaches authors how to get that readership so that they can get to the point where Amazon is then promoting them. So Nick had a way of converting people from interested prospects over into buyers, and it was kind of a launch style format where he would run people through this sequence, and then once it was done, once his launch was done, even though everything was all set up and the emails were done, he would shut things down. And as people came in to watch his videos, they didn't really have anywhere to go. They would just kind of be in this holding area for week after week. And then about every 3 to 4 weeks, he would go and change all the links on his emails and change all the stuff on his website so that he could send that group of people that was waiting through the system again. And he would try to do it as often as possible. He did it about every 3 weeks. And he was getting a really pretty decent result with it, 6.5% sales conversion rate. It's really not that shabby. But then he thought, well, what if I didn't make these people wait? What if I could somehow automate this so that they were going through the same process, but I didn't have to do the work? And more than that, people didn't have to wait because they're interested. Remember, the interest dies off very, very quickly, right? So Nick thought, what if I was able to get people right into that process automatically, but still have a cart close at the end of it? So there was a real, genuine deadline. So he came to us, and through Deadline Funnel, he was able to increase his sales conversion from 6.5% to 9%. Now, I think everyone knows this, but I want to point it out. Increasing your conversion rate from 6.5% to 9% is not a, 2.5% increase. It's a 38% increase in sales conversion. So think about this, and I really want to drive this home. A 38% increase in sales conversion, no additional traffic, no additional advertising, no additional team to make this happen. This is just pure profit. He's delivering an online course. It's pure profit that he can either let build up in his bank account week after week, day after day, or he can use to invest in additional traffic or additional team. So that's Nick's testimonial. I'm going to go ahead and skip that for now. I want to jump to how this actually works on a conceptual level. I want to get more and more detailed. So think of it like this. So leads that enter the Nick's funnel on Monday. Let's say that on Monday they go through, they watch a series of videos, and then their deadline is on Friday. For other folks, they start on Tuesday and they go through the same sequence, but because they started on Tuesday, not Monday, their deadline is going to be on Saturday, and on and on and on. And so everyone who starts has their own deadline. And so remember that concept of the perfect persuasion window where you get that huge, massive spike in sales? Well, what happens is once you put this into action, in a few days, every single day becomes the perfect persuasion window for a group of people that's going through your funnel. Every single day, a group of people is being forced to make a decision. We're going after those interested people who are interested, but they haven't quite made the decision yet, and now we're using a deadline so that they don't hit the snooze button and their interest drops off. We're making them make a decision. Plus, we're using the psychology of loss aversion to get people who are interested to really take action now, rather than them just hitting the snooze button and losing interest. So that's how this works conceptually. Now,